What is happening, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Foodies and Friends on Fox 26 and Fox Local. Y'all, we were kind of rodeoed out. Rodeo season. Everybody I talked to is just a little tired and a little worn out. That parking, we ate a lot of fried food. So I figured, why not go to the beach?
Yeah.
Let's take a little trip to the beach. It's only 45 minutes away. We are in San Leon, y'all. I mean, I'm an hour on the west side. Really not that bad. We're at the infamous Pier 6 Seafood and Oyster House. They've been here since 2020, but y'all have been crushing it since then. I feel like as soon as y'all opened, everybody was like, we got to go to Pier 6. We got to go to Pier 6. Nominated for a James Beard Award in 2022, only a couple years after they opened. Very impressive. Joining me today is the owner, founder, operator, Raz Halili, also the executive chef, Joe Cervantez. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Thanks for coming down and making the drive.
No, it's busy here right now. This is this a normal, typical crowd here on the
especially when we're moving into the spring season. We get the low months in the January, February when the weather's kind of dreary, but now it's, I would say it's our prime time when the weather's like this. We can open up the doors, people sit on the patio, enjoy the environment, see the water, fresh air.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. This is my first time here. And we're kind of, if you look at a map, we're almost on like a little pizza pie piece, right? Like
a little peninsula. We're out here.
It's a peninsula. You wouldn't know that I grew up in a beach town, but a lot of oysters here. I want to talk to you about oysters. Apparently, you're the oyster man. You're the president of Prestige Oyster as well, right?
That's right.
That's a family business, long time.
Family-run business. Still is to this day. Parents are still very much involved. So is a lot of other family. But I'm the oyster guy.
The oyster guy. All right.
Lots of names around the oyster guy.
I have some questions about oysters. I think a lot of people have questions about oysters. We hear about Gulf oysters, Pacific oysters, Atlantic oysters. You're going to tell us all about it, right?
I'm going to try to.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go right on over to the foodie cam because they've got some incredible dishes here at Pier 6 that I have seen on social media quite a bit over the last few years. I've been dying to get out here, and we're kicking things off with the oysters. All right, Raz, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at right here?
So here we got the oysters granita, and we have a spicy margarita. This is a perfect kind of dish moving into the warmer months of the time of the year, especially if you're coming off a boat and it's been a hot day on the water. You're going to come get nice, refreshing oyster and that granita on the top, give you that, it's like almost like an icy with an oyster together. And chef can speak to the flavor profiles in there.
Well, the idea between this dish was just like you said, it's hot outside. I wanted to give the guests something that's light and refreshing that they can just put down. It's got cucumber, it has lime. So almost like a cucumber limeade that we froze and then we shaved very thinly, put it on top. So when you take a bite of that oyster, you get the right amount of acid, sweetness, the salinity of the oyster. So it's a perfect balanced, refreshing treat. I
love that. So raw oyster, right? So nothing on this oyster is cooked, but does the lime juice cook it a little bit? Kind of like
it hasn't sit there very long. Not really. It's more just like taking down a raw oyster with just that added acid that goes along with it. It's not like a ceviche where it kind of cooks. The acid is there strong enough to cook the oyster. Just very subtle, refreshing.
Yeah. And so give us a little bit of a rundown on, first of all, let me ask you, are we in oyster season, or what is Texas's oyster season?
Yeah, so we are in oyster season, traditional oyster season. So that, those months range from November through the end of April.
Okay. And all right. So just coming up on the end. Just coming on the end of
traditional oyster season, but our fishery is year round. We have a private fishery that we manage and we harvest oysters throughout the entire year. And oysters are good and safe to eat past November in the months of May through October. It's just the state's fishery is during that time period. And oysters are going to be at their peak, I would say, right now.
And they're at their peak now because they've been growing the longest, and so they're the biggest?
Well, they've had those colder months to go dormant. They spawned in the summer, and then they go dormant. They start storing their fat, and so during these months is when they fattened up at their prime. You've got the cold water temperatures. They're going to be lots of flavor profiles, and oysters are very driven by Mother Nature, by the weather conditions. Whether it's we're getting in fresh water, or we're getting in Gulf water through different fronts, things of that nature are going to change the profile of an oyster. You could eat this oyster today, and you could think, oh, wow, I love the flavor profile. It's got salty, it's super briny, and then we get a cold front, or we get, you know, some wind coming in from the southeast, and it completely changes. You come in next week, and you're going to get a completely different taste profile. It could be sweeter, it could be a much different. So oysters are very interesting in that aspect.
Really interesting. I've got about a million questions
Okay.
from what you just said right there. All right. So looking at this oyster right here. So this is a half shell,
Correct.
right? So now, and then the inside of it, how does all of that you talked about affect the size of what's inside? Like, how old is this oyster right
That
here?
oyster is going to be, I would say, anywhere between, you know, 2 and 3 years old. You know,
Really?
yeah.
That's a long time.
Correct. I mean, it is a long time, but you know,
Wow.
this is what I would say. This is a wild caught half shell oysters, contrary to the belief that, you know, Gulf oysters are big and kind of ugly. This is a very beautiful, naturally grown, perfect half shell. That is very specific to anything you're going to see that's a boutique farmed oyster, and this comes from Aransas Bay in South Texas.
Exactly what I was going to ask you. So Aransas Bay, so this is truly a Gulf oyster.
Absolutely.
It was grown here, harvested here.
Absolutely.
And it didn't have a very far journey to go from there to here, right?
No, and oysters in
and that's a
general,
benefit,
typically,
right?
typically you want a short journey. You want them to be harvested as quickly as possible.
Right.
I mean, consumed as quickly as possible from harvest, right?
Yes.
And as you were saying, this is a Gulf oyster, but it's also worth mentioning. This is a Virginica oyster, and we have this,
Virginica.
correct. That's
And
the
what does that
species.
mean? Okay.
The species of the oyster, which is also known as the American cupped oyster.
Mhm.
So this oyster is going to be the same species from Texas all the way up to the mid-Atlantic. Whether it's a farmed oyster or wild oyster caught, whether it's a Blue Point or a Chesapeake or a Raspberry Point or any of these cool kind of names and cool boutique farms that we have, like Wellfleet's, it's all a Virginica.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's the different environments and the different methods that they're grown that change the profile of the
Wow.
oyster, from the size, the
So-
shape, and the taste.
Do the Gulf oysters have a particular flavor or taste that somebody from, say, Boston could pick up on and be like, oh yeah, that's a Gulf oyster?
They might think they know what a Gulf oyster can taste like, but the reality is oysters, their profiles changes from South Texas to just different base systems. So it's really, for me, when someone says that, I think it's, you know, it's incorrect, because the profiles change so much. They could say the size and the shape. They could say they may be able to spot and identify a Gulf oyster versus a farmed oyster or a East Coast boutique oyster. Absolutely. But taste profiles, the spectrum's all
Wide
over the
range.
board. Wide range. Absolutely.
Fascinating, y'all. I'm sorry. This is just, you put me near the beach. We got some science. We got some engineers and chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We're going to have some fun. All right, let's go right back over to the foodie cam. We've got a lot of really beautiful dishes to show you here at Pier 6 in San Leon, right on the water. All right, chef, what are we looking at here?
So this is our chicken and donut. So it's a play off of chicken and waffle. So I got a crispy fried chicken that we pound out very thin. Chicken fry that. We put that over some 2 house-made donuts, top that with an egg. And then I take some crystal hot sauce and then turn that into a honey and a little bit of cayenne for some heat. And then we got a crystal hot sauce cayenne honey.
Ooh.
So you got the sweet. Again, you have spice to go with the honey, and then the savory from the egg.
Is this
It's a great brunch
dish?
It's
Yeah,
a good
brunch
Yeah,
dish.
it's only
So-
on the brunch menu. Yeah.
So how y'all have a strong brunch game, I hear.
Oh, yeah.
How's your
Absolutely.
brunch? Tell me about it.
So Saturdays and Sundays, we do brunch from 11 to 3:30. We'll have our brunch menu, but we'll also have our weekend menu that has all of our items as well. So you have an option to choose from the brunch menu, or you can get from our regular menu. And then at 3:30, we'll just go straight into our regular menu.
What's it like here? Is it pretty
Yeah, it's great. Especially when
excited energy, or is it more low key family, like bring the kids, set them loose kind of thing?
I would say, early on, yeah, it's a family, definitely a family environment. I mean, on the weekends, you're going to get people that are parked in the parking lot before we open, ready to come in. Yeah. And
that's the best feeling, though, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
as an operator, seeing that, it's especially, like I said, we're moving into these months where it's enjoyable to sit on the patio and sit outside.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Dining, as they say, al fresco now.
Well, and it's a great point, because you guys as an operator and as a restaurant have a different set of challenges than, say, a restaurant inside the loop, right? Like you really do have to bring your diners out here
Correct.
to an extent. You have a loyal base here, I'm sure, that live here, but a lot of the people that come here, it's a little bit of a hike to get out here. And so you guys really have to figure out, how do we bring them here? How do we make it work? Well, first of all, let me just say, right there, like that.
Yeah.
I don't need to see anything else, right? I don't need to eat any food. All I got to get is that. But at the end of the day, you are still continually thinking about, how do we bring people out here? How do we provide the value for the 2 hours of traffic they might sit in?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you're coming in from out of town, and like you said, we have a loyal fan base from, you know, locally here and also the surrounding suburbs. But for people making the hike in, it's, you know, they don't want to just drive for a meal and then get in the car and leave. And that's why we put a lot of infrastructure in the marina, in around this place, with 3 different bars, 2 outside, 1 indoor. So you can come in, have a meal, you can hang out in swing chairs and enjoy some cocktails, walk the marina, just enjoy the environment. We get a lot of sailboats, a lot of power boats. So you get to see that interaction. You get to see the, you know, I enjoy just watching boats. You know, owning a couple, you know how much work it is operating one. So I prefer to look at the beauty of them in the water.
No, I believe it. And I also love how you guys are just right down the street from this beautiful park. Really nice, like, especially if you've got kids and you're coming in for maybe like a half-day trip or something. That's what I would do. I would come in for a half-day trip, you know, come sit out here, dine near the water, send the kid and the husband down the street for the park for a few laps, let them run a few of the energy calories off while I hang out here. And I mean that's probably what a lot of people do too, right?
Absolutely. And that's why we added the bungalows, Pier 6 bungalows.
Oh, tell me about the Pier 6 bungalows.
Yeah, so that was, you know, they're, you know, our Airbnbs that you can, or overnight stays, vacation rentals, whatever you want to call them. But
know about this.
Yeah, because making, like you said, making a 2-hour hike down, if you want to have some cocktails, you don't want to drive 2 hours back to town or whatever.
So how does it work?
You just easily go online, make a booking. It's a, you know, you can do a 1-night stay. We also have the Pier 6 Beach House, which is right next door to Pier 6. So you can rent an entire house. You can spend the weekend. You can go fishing on there's 2 private piers. You can charter boats out of Pier 6 to go fishing or to go sailing. So there's a variety of options that we can kind of offer for, you know, customers that want to come down and spend a day or a couple days. We have those options.
That's awesome. You've thought of everything, and you got the oyster place right down the street too. You want to go see some oysters. All right, let's go back to the foodie cam. We've got a lot more dishes to show you guys here at Pier 6. I'm so excited. This is my first time here. Oh my goodness, chef. What are you doing here?
So what I have here is our picnic style lobster rolls. So we get our live lobsters in from Maine. We bring them in, we break them down, we steam them in-house, we clean the meat, and then I use the meat for a few different dishes. So this one here is our picnic style lobster roll. So a lot of people like, you know, their lobster rolls with just lobster meat and then the roll with some drawn butter on the side. Then you have others that like the lobster roll to be cold, tossed into a mayonnaise base or an aioli. So this one's just kind of a hybrid of both. So I have some coleslaw down at the bottom that has already the mayonnaise mixed in there, but then you have your warm lobster meat on top that you can just add drawn butter to it. So you get the best of both worlds when you take that bite.
I saw them bringing this out, and I mean, it's got to be one of your best sellers, right? I mean,
it is, you know, and a lobster roll is like an American classic dish, right? And, you know, you see a lot on the East Coast, and, you know, being by the water, I mean, it's just so light and refreshing. And the way chef does it, the lobster meat's so tender. It's, you know, it's a long process to produce a lobster roll like that. So a lot of credit to the kitchen to producing it consistently. I get a lot of compliments on that dish.
Now you actually grew up here in San Leon, right? You whole life been here.
Yep. So
your
grew
little
up here.
beach baby.
Well, actually, when I was a kid, this actually was San Leon Marina. We used to have a boat that we used to store here, a little pleasure boat, and our oyster company is right down the road. So, like I said, I grew up in the area on the oyster docks, and I've been around here all my life.
Like, did you learn how to like shuck? Is that the right shuck the oysters or
I mean, you learn how to shuck, you learn how to harvest the oysters. I prefer much to harvest them than shuck them. So it's a lot of work there.
That's really hard. So walk me through the process of getting an oyster. Like, where does it come from, and then how does it get on my plate, and about how long does that take?
So an oyster grows on reefs throughout our bay systems, kind of closer to shore. You get some in some deeper waters, but they're oyster keystone species, right? So anywhere you have an oyster reef, you're going to have healthy walks of life. You're going to have other fish and other shrimp and other critters. And so if you're oystering the method we use a dredge method.
Dredge.
Yeah. Okay. So think of it like, so when you go out there, you're on your oyster boat, you've got your dredge. Think of it like you're going out to rake the leaves off your lawn. You're going to rake the leaves off, but you're really not going to dig into your grass, right? You're going to take that top layer.
The light top layer.
Yeah, light top layer. You're going to fish the edges of the reef, and you're going to pull that up lightly. It's a very light fishing. When most people think of dredging, they think of like digging, and that's really not what we want to do. It's a light rake. Bring them up on the table. They're getting them from there. They're going to be sorted. So any oyster under 3 inches is going to go back out into the water to be able to grow into a mature, adult oyster. And then any bycatch, which is very limited when you're oystering, you don't get a whole lot of bycatch. That all goes back out into the water. And then we're going to size, like I said, 3-inch oysters. And whether they're aiming for a larger shucking oyster or a half shell oyster, that's going to be brought in. And then they're going to go to one of our landing docks and processing facilities. From that point, they get another washing and grading method, boxed, and then shipped out to a restaurant.
Wow. That's the process. Yeah. That's a lot of hands.
A lot of hands.
All right, let's go back to the foodie cam. We've got another dish to show you out here on the water. I don't know if you guys can hear the seagulls. They're arguing with us already for the dish.
The lobster roll.
So I talked about earlier that we take that lobster meat and we break it down in a few different dishes. This is a starter that we have. This is our lobster tacos. So I take the lobster meat, and then we go back to adding that cold lobster meat with the aioli sauce, a spicy sriracha aioli with some corn relish. Have a set on a bed of wakame, and then the shell's made out of a fried wonton shell.
I mean, this is a beautiful dish, chef. Now, tell me about you, chef, because you've been in and around Houston for a while, been at a few different restaurants, and tell everybody about yourself.
So most recently, I was at Brennan's of Houston. I was their executive chef. And then before that, I was Ronnie Killen's executive chef at Killen Steakhouse and his concepts. And then before Ronnie Killen, I was back at Brennan's. So I started at Brennan's as the banquet sous chef there for a few years, and then took a little break. Went to go work for Ronnie, and then went back to Brennan's when Danny Trace left as executive chef there, and I took over his role. Yeah. And then met Raz, and here I am.
Oh my gosh. Shout out to all of those incredible restaurants. We love every single person that you just mentioned. All right, let's go back to the foodie cam, you guys. We're going to take a look at another dish here at Pier 6.
This is a Parmesan shrimp pasta. So everybody knows Parmesan chicken. Well, this one is Parmesan shrimp. So we're out here, by the water. So I decided to take some Gulf shrimp, crust it with some Parmesan cheese, pan fry that, and then we serve that on a bed of ratatouille pasta, which is made from Fabio's in Houston. So he makes all of my fresh pastas for me. Bring it here, and I kind of do like a little spicy tomato basil sauce on the bottom. Then I hit it with some fresh grated Parmesan cheese.
It's beautiful. And, I just want to say that these dishes are very clearly on another level. Like, I think a lot of people, when they come out to a typical beachfront bar, they have something in their mind that, okay, I'm going to get some hot dogs and some French fries, maybe some tater tots. But you guys have really intentionally said, no, we're going to crush all the beachfront food stereotype, right? And we're taking it to another level because, as you heard, those are some pretty legitimate restaurants and some pretty legitimate chefs that you've come from. You're a little bit of ways away from the hamburger and the French fry shack, right? But that was very intentional on your part.
Yeah, look, everyone has in their mind when they go to like a bayfront place, it's going to be like a fry shack or
and we love that.
And we love that. And I do too. There's a place for it, and there's many of them great that I enjoy getting fried shrimp at. But we wanted to do something different, bring something different to the area, something that obviously the food matched the quality of the kitchen, and also to be able just to elevate the dining experience.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! And this is amazing. Yeah, I mean, this breading on the outside. Oh my goodness! I could just eat this all day. Yeah,
it's good.
Really good.
So now, do you guys have any special events that you have, like weekends or any kind of special events that people can?
Yeah, we do a lot of. So we celebrate all the holidays, right? So we just had our St. Patty's Day party. We do, a number of different parties, and we emphasize, the ability to be able to do things with the water. So one big one that we look forward to every year is the poker run. It's a big party here. It's done by, a poker run. What is it? Cigarette boats that make checkpoints from, Clear Lake all the way through Galveston. And one of the stops here is called the Ace in the Hole Party. So it's about 3 to 4 hours long. All the boats come in, and we say like 100 boats. 100
They
cigarette
all tie
boats.
up.
They all tie up in the marina, and this patio just turns into a massive party. We have
Boat dance
DJ
party.
Botniks usually comes in
Oh
from
my
town.
God.
He'll DJ, and it's a great party.
That's amazing.
And we like to advertise ahead of time because we have customers that come and don't know it's a party, and then
Sure.
they come in and they see this massive
Little
party, and
bit
they're kind of
surprised.
surprised
Like,
by it.
You
But-
might think you're getting home in
Yeah.
5 minutes, but it's actually going to take you an
Yeah.
hour. All right, let's go back to the foodie cam. We've got another few dishes to show you and only a few minutes. Oh my goodness. All right, chef, what are we looking at?
All right, so this is an elevated version of our Pier 6 burger. So this is called our Diplomat burger, named after one of the oyster boats, Raz's oyster boats. So on the bottom, I have like a mushroom demi glaze. I treat it like a Salisbury steak, but on a bun. So you can cut that burger in half. You have some Gruyere cheese in the middle with some caramelized onions that's been compressed into the patty, using Akiushi beef. So I take that and then I cut it in half, and then I just get a little bit of the demi glaze, and then I just eat it and have fun. Eat it with your hands. Get a little messy with it.
Not your average burger. I mean, that is like, you've really kind of just done an amazing job with this menu, chef. Really.
Thank
I mean, and it's exactly what I think the diners want to see when they're driving out here and maybe staying for a few hours, a half
Mhm.
day, or even overnight. Kind of like a one-stop shop. You really don't need to go anywhere, especially if you get one of your Airbnbs, right?
Yeah, I mean, you come for brunch, lunch, and dinner. I mean, then you,
That's
you
the
hit all,
idea.
that's the whole, you hit all the marks. But no, to be honest, I mean, we still live in, the majority of, I would say, Americans still are majority meat and potatoes, right? Like seafood is still a small portion of the proteins that, us Americans consume. So we wanted to make sure that we're also have offerings for non-seafood eaters. The burger, fantastic.
Yeah.
The Pier 6 burger is still one of my favorite dishes on the menu. It's a smash burger with akushi beef. It just kind of melts in your mouth.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's go back over to the foodie cam. Chef, tell us what this dish is right
This
here.
is our tide to fried. So this is our fried seafood platter. You have cornmeal crusted Gulf oysters. And then in the middle, that's our potato crusted red snapper. So we take some shaved potatoes, we wrap it around the snapper, and then we deep fry that. So it's like a fish and chips. And then we have our fried Gulf shrimp, and then just some hush puppies served with some coleslaw and French fries.
I love that. That's a beautiful dish. How have you noticed the diner trends in Houston with their requests and their taste as it comes to seafood?
I mean, Houstonians obviously have a well-developed palate because we have these amazing restaurants all around town that, you get different world cuisines, and then we get local cuisines that have been, like you talked about Brennan's, they're an institution in Houston, and then you, like I said, different flavor profiles all over the board, right? So, and what you've seen different trends, not just in, I would say, locally here in town, but with seafood in general, as we shift away towards fried food and more towards grilled applications, like the char grilled oysters are, I would say, one of the biggest trends we're seeing across the country on menus. And you take an oyster, and for a lot of people, they don't want to eat a raw oyster, but you take that and you would grill it or you bake it, and you have different compound
Add a little
butters,
cucumber
you add
and
a little
lime
fun,
to it.
and then it makes it more interesting, and it's a cooked application. I think that's a big trend that we're seeing. Not just, it started in New Orleans with char-broiled oysters, but it's spread all across the country now.
All right, last dish, chef. What are we looking at?
All right, so earlier we talked about, where I work. So I came from a steakhouse, so I figured, we're going to have a good steak on the menu. All my steaks are prime, so I have this one here is our Cowboy Oscar. So it's a bone-in ribeye, prime cut, and then I did a play off of an Oscar. So an Oscar typically comes with crab meat, asparagus, and topped with béarnaise. So for here, I did I did asparagus salad with the béarnaise on top of the ribeye, and then the crab meat is going to go into the au gratin potatoes that we serve on the side.
Just beautiful, chef. I mean, really, this is a good team. I'm feeling like a lot of good energy here. This is you got something good.
We have a lot of
going
fun.
here.
We do.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. So.
Well, I think I found my my 10th wedding anniversary
We'll make it
Airbnb
special,
overnight coming up
Yeah.
here in a few. Good thing my husband is just down the street with my son. I give him a little
Yeah.
hint. Send him your way.
There you
Oh
go.
my goodness. All right, y'all. Well, if you have not yet been out here, it's only an hour drive. It was a very easy drive, multiple different routes, depending on if you're coming from the north side or the west side, very easy to get to. I would definitely encourage you guys to come out and give this place a try. It's almost like a little trip to another world, and you don't even have to go that far. And then we're going to get home before the traffic, right? Okay. That does it for us here out in San Leon. We've got a lot of drinks and I've got a lot of oysters to consume. We'll see you guys next time on another episode of Foodies and Friends.